Alright, hi everyone. If my thing goes off, I may have been yelling about Supernatural with one of my friends through text message, so you're probably going to hear my phone go off 1,000 times. Anyway, I'm I'm legitimately excited for this because this is so fun. This is part 7 of The Color of Magic. It's from Mary Shrieks, who I love. I get to say that. That's awesome too. So let's do this. Okay. Then what? Said Two Flower. Oh, they dragged me out, thrashed me, of course. And no one knows what the spell does? Rincewind shook his head. It had vanished from the page, he said. No one will know until I say it, or until I die, of course, then it will sort of say itself. For all I know, it stops the universe, or ends time, or anything. That's convenient. Two Flower patted him on the shoulder. I should back up, not saying convenient like, oh, that's convenient, you're not going to tell us, but it's convenient that it's Rincewind and this is the spell that he gets. Something that could end everything, and he doesn't know. Two Flower patted him on the shoulder. No sense in brooding, he said cheerfully. Let's have another look for a way out. Rincewind shook his head. All the terror had been spent now. He had broken through the terror barrier. Terror barrier. Terror barrier. Never seen those two words next to each other. Fucking Terry Pratchett. Perhaps, and was in the dead calm state of mind that lies on the other side. Anyway, he had ceased to gibber. We're doomed, he stated. We've been walking around all night, I tell you. This place is a spider web. There's a period there that I just ignored. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter which way we go. We'll end up in the center. It was kind of you to come looking for me anyway, said Two Flower. How did you manage it exactly? It was very impressive. Rincewind accidentally doing impressive things. Okay. Oh, well, began the wizard awkwardly. I just thought I can't leave old Two Flower there, and so what we've got to do now is find this Bel Shamharoth person and explain things to him, and perhaps he'll let us out, said Two Flower. Rincewind ran a finger around his ear. It must be the funny echoes in here, he said. I thought I heard you use the words like find and explain. That's right. Rincewind glared at him in the hellish purple glow. Find Bel Shamharoth, he said. Yes, we don't have to get involved. Find the soul render and not get involved. Just give him a nod, I suppose, and ask the way to the exit. Explain things to the sender of Eigen... Rincewind bit off the end of the word just in time and finished... Oh, I get it. 8. He was going to say 8, sorry. You're insane. Hey, come back. He darted down the passage after Two Flower, and after a few moments came to a halt with a groan. Oh, boy. The violet light was intense here, giving everything new and unpleasant colors. This wasn't a passage. It was a wide room with walls to a number that Rincewind didn't dare to contemplate, and 7A passages radiating from it. 7A. Rincewind saw a little way off, a low altar with the same number of sides as 4 times 2. I'm never going to make it through. I'm not going to make it through this. It didn't occupy the center of the room, however. The center was occupied by a huge stone slab with twice as many sides as a square. You fucker, I hate you. That's so funny to me that the book itself can't even say the number. It looked massive. In the strange light, it appeared to be slightly tilted, with one edge standing proud of the slabs around it. Two Flower was standing on it. Why? Hey, Rincewind, look what's here! The luggage came ambling down one of the other passages that radiated from the room. That's great, said Rincewind. Fine. It can lead us out of here. Now. Two Flower was already rummaging in the chest. Yes, he said, after I've taken a few pictures. No! Run away. Just let me fit the attachment. I said now. Rincewind stopped. Hrun the Barbarian was standing at the passage mouth directly opposite him, a great black sword held in one ham-sized fist. You? Said Hrun uncertainly. Ah, yes, said Rincewind. Hrun, isn't it long time no see? What brings you here? Isn't Two Flower going to realize that this is Hrun and not the man he met earlier? So what brings you here? Hrun pointed to the luggage. That, he said. This much conversation seemed to exhaust Hrun. Then he added, in a tone that combined statement, claim, threat, and ultimatum, mine. It belongs to Two Flower here, said Rincewind. Here's a tip. Don't touch it. It dawned on him that this was precisely the wrong thing to say, but Hrun had already pushed Two Flower away and was reaching for the luggage, which sprouted legs, backed away and raised its lid threateningly. In the uncertain light, Rincewind thought he could see rows of enormous teeth white as bleached beechwood. Hrun, he said quickly, there's something I ought to tell you. Hrun turned a puzzled face to him. What? He said. It's about numbers. Look, you know if you add 7 and 1, or 3 and 5, or take 2 from 10, you get a number. While you're here, don't say it, and we might all stand a chance of getting out of here alive, or merely just dead. Who is he? Asked Two Flower. He was holding a cage in his hands, dredged from the bottommost depths of the luggage. It appeared to be full of sulking pink lizards. Why? I am Hrun, said Hrun proudly. Then he looked at Rincewind. What? He said. Just don't say it, okay? Said Rincewind. He looked at the sword in Hrun's hand. It was black, the sort of black that is less a color than a graveyard of colors. Fuck. Less a color than a graveyard of colors. Fuck. It's like, what, the third sentence or little phrase that I've read that I'm like, I should never write that. I'm terrible. And there was a highly ornate runic inscription up the blade. More noticeable still was the faint octarine glow that surrounded it. The sword must have noticed him too, because it suddenly spoke in a voice like a claw being scraped across glass. Strange, it said. Why can't he say... I almost don't want to say it myself. Why can't he say 8? 8. Hate. 8, said the echoes. There was the faintest of grinding noises deep under the earth. Oh my god. And the echoes, although they became softer, refused to die away. They bounced from wall to wall, crossing and recrossing, and the violet light flickered in time with the sound. You did it! Screamed Rincewind. I said you shouldn't say 8. He stopped, appalled at himself, but the word was out now, and joined its colleagues in the general susurration. Rincewind turned to run, but the air suddenly seemed to be thicker than treacle. A charge of magic bigger than he had ever seen was building up. When he moved in painful slow motion, his limbs left trails of golden sparks that traced their shape in the air. Behind him, there was a rumble as the great octagonal slab rose into the air, hung for a moment on one edge, and crashed down on the floor. Something thin and black snaked out of the pit and wrapped itself around his ankle. He screamed as he landed heavily on the vibrating flagstones. The tentacle started to pull him across the floor. Then, Two Flower was in front of him, reaching out for his hands. He grasped the little men's arms desperately, and they lay looking into each other's faces. Rincewind slid on, even so. What's holding you? He gasped. Nothing, said Two Flower. What's happening? I'm being dragged into this pit. What do you think? Oh, Rincewind, I'm sorry. You're sorry? There was a noise like a singing saw, and the pressure on Rincewind's legs abruptly ceased. He turned his head and saw Hrun crouched by the pit, and his sword ablur as it hacked at the tentacles racing out toward him. Two Flower helped the wizard to his feet, and they crouched by the altar stone, watching the manic figure as it battled the questing arms. It won't work, said Rincewind. The sender can materialize tentacles. What are you doing? Two Flower was feverishly attaching the cage of subdued lizards to the picture box, which he'd mounted on a tripod. What? I've just got to get a picture of this, he muttered. It's stupendous. Can you hear me, imp? The picture imp opened his tiny hatch, glanced momentarily at the scene around the pit, and vanished into the box. Rincewind jumped as something touched his leg and brought his heel down on a questing tentacle. Come on, he said. Time to go zoom. He grabbed Two Flower's arm, but the tourist resisted. Run away and leave Hrun with that thing? Rincewind looked blank. Why not, he said. It's his job, but it'll kill him. It could be worse, said Rincewind. What? It could be us, Rincewind pointed out logically. Come on. Two Flower pointed. Hey, he said. It's got my luggage. Before Rincewind could restrain him, Two Flower... He can't stop getting in trouble. Before Rincewind could restrain him, Two Flower ran around the edge of the pit to the box, which was being dragged across the floor, while its lid snapped ineffectually at the tentacle that held it. The little man began to kick at the tentacle in fury. Another one snapped out of the melee around Hrun and caught him around the waist. Hrun himself was already in indistinct shape amid the tightening coils. Even as Rincewind stared in horror, the hero's sword was wrenched from his grasp and hurled against a wall. Your spell! Shouted Two Flower. Rincewind did not move. He was looking at the thing rising out of the pit. It was an enormous eye. Oh my god, what? And it was staring directly at him. He whimpered as a tentacle fastened itself around his waist. The words of the spell rose unbidden in his throat. He opened his mouth as in a dream, shaping around the first barbaric syllable. Another tentacle shot out like a whip and coiled around his throat, choking him. Staggering and gasping, Rincewind was dragged across the floor. One flailing arm caught Two Flower's picture box as it skittered past on its tripod. Excuse me, he snatched it up instinctively as his ancestors might have snatched up a stone when faced with a marauding tiger. If only he could get enough room to swing it against the eye. The eye filled the whole universe in front of him. Rincewind felt his will draining away like water from a sieve. In front of him, the torpid lizards stirred in their cage on the picture box. Irrationally, as a man about to be beheaded notices every scratch and stain on the executioner's block, Rincewind saw that they had overlarge tails that were bluish-white and, he realized, throbbing alarmingly. As he was drawn toward the eye, the terror-struck Rincewind raised the box protectively, and at the same time heard the picture imp say, "They're about right now. Can't hold them any longer. Everyone smile, please." There was a flash of light, so white and so bright, it didn't seem like light at all. Bel Shamharoth screamed, a sound that started in the far ultrasonic and finished somewhere in Rincewind's bowels. The tentacles went momentarily as stiff as rods, hurling their various cargoes around the room, but before bunching up protectively in front of the abused eye. The whole mass dropped into the pit, and a moment later the big slab was snatched up by several dozen tentacles and slammed into place, leaving a number of thrashing limbs trapped around the edge. It's just starting to, hit me. I can't believe this is happening. I just realized what the lizards were. That was the flash on the camera, wasn't it? Did they just use a camera flash to disable a giant eye? Harun landed, rolling, bounced off a wall, and came up on his feet. He found his sword and started to chop methodically at the doomed arms. Rincewind lay on the floor, concentrating on not going mad. A hollow wooden noise made him turn his head. The luggage had landed on its curved lid. Now it was rocking angrily and kicking its little legs in the air. Warily, Rincewind looked around for Two-Flower. The little man was in a crumpled heap against the wall, but at least he was groaning. Oh my God. The wizard pulled himself across the floor, painfully, and whispered, "What the hell was that?" Why were they so bright? Muttered Two-Flower. God's my head. Too bright? Said Rincewind. He looked across the floor to the cage on the picture box. The lizards inside, now noticeably thinner, were watching him with interest. "The salamanders," moaned Two-Flower. "The picture will be overexposed, I know it." "They're salamanders?" asked Rincewind, incredulously. "Of course." Standard attachment. The way he says "of course." Rincewind staggered across the box and picked it up. He'd seen salamanders before, of course, but they'd all been small specimens. They had also been floating in a jar of pickle in the Curiobiological Museum down in the cellars of Unseen University, since live salamanders were extinct around the Circle C. He tried to remember the little he knew about them. They were magical creatures. They also had no mouths, since they subsisted entirely on the nourishing quality of the octarine wavelength in the Discworld sunlight, which they absorbed through their skins. Of course, they also absorbed the rest of the sunlight as well, storing it in a special sac until it was excreted in the normal way. A desert inhabited by Discworld salamanders was a veritable lighthouse at night. Oh my God. Rincewind put them down and nodded grimly. With all the octarine light in this magical place, the creatures had been gorging themselves. And then nature had taken its course. The picture box sidled away on its tripod. Rincewind aimed to kick it and missed. He was beginning to dislike sapient pear wood. Something small stung his cheek. He brushed it away. Irritably, he looked around at a sudden grinding noise, and a voice like a carving knife cutting through silk said, "This is very undignified." "Shut up," said Hrun. He was using Kring to lever the top off the altar. He looked up at Rincewind and grinned. Rincewind hoped that rictus-strung grimace was a grin. "Mighty magic," commented the barbarian, pushing down heavily on the complaining blade with a hand the size of a ham. "Now we share the treasure, eh?" Rincewind grunted as something small and hard struck his ear. There was a gust of wind hardily felt. "What is that? That's the second time." "How do you know there's treasure in there?" he said. Hrun heaved and managed to hook his fingers under the stone. "You find choke apples under a choke apple tree," he said. "You find treasure under under altars. Logic." "Thank you for your logic lesson, Hrun." He gritted his teeth. The stone swung up and landed heavily on the floor. "Well, I'm going to have to find out what's in the altar in the next video, since I'm nearing 15 minutes, so I'm going to read in another video.